Hi folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zugs. So we're carrying on with our 2026 update to all of the builds, and we're back on the Arbities. So let's jump in and see what we are using. So gear-wise, there are a few options for this, and I'll run through them as we're going across everything. We're starting off with the Arbities Shock Maul. Modifiers go as this: damage, finesse, crowd control, and penetration, lol, and mobility is our dump. Perk-wise, we're going with Flak and Carapace. And blessings, we're going for hammer blow and high voltage. Impact works really goddamn well with the Arbities because basically everything has is a blunt weapon, and also with impact we can stagger and knock things around and basically make things a lot safer for ourselves. But if you don't want to use the shock more, you can use the crusher, quite a good weapon. You could go with the shock more and suppression shield if you want more defense. I'm just gonna slowly pan across these so you can see them. I would generally pick one of these three: the shock maul, the crusher, or the shock maul and suppression shield. All very, very good weapons, work very well. For the ranged weapons, we're using the Exterminator Shotgun Mark III. Modifiers go as this: damage, ammo, stopping power, and stability, and mobility is our dump. Perk-wise, Flak and Unyielding. Flak, most prevalent armor type in the game, and Unyielding so that we can back off and lay down a lot of damage into monstrosities and things. Blessings-wise, we're going for Execution, which is 20% damage bonus versus Staggered, which is basically anything we touch. And Fire Frenzy, gain 10% close damage 3.5 seconds after killing an enemy at close range, stacking 5 times. Now, for the curios, we are using 3 toughness curios, and they are basically the same apart from the last one, which has stamina regen instead of combat ability regen. We are going for damage resistance gunners, as they're basically the most dangerous thing for us. Them and snipers, but snipers can be dodged. You can learn to dodge snipers. I mean, you can't dodge them 100% of the time. You will occasionally get an unlucky hit from them. But gunners, they're the thing that's going to strip you. That is why we are sticking with damage resist gunners. I mean, if you really want to, you can drop one of them off for damage resistant snipers for a little bit of extra, staying power, but it's up to you. Right, that is our setup. So we are going to look at the talents. One thing with the shotgun: it is an incredibly powerful weapon. Some people really don't like it, but it works very much like the Ogryn kickback. It's incredibly accurate, incredibly hard hitting, and all you really have to do is aim for the face. The stopping power on this thing is absolutely crazy. And you also have the extra action button, which puts in a different shell. It's not super great, but it's all right. I wouldn't bother too much with it unless you're trying to actually shock something, but it's useful. But you don't have to fiddle around with it. That's the reason why I like the weapon. You don't have to mess around too much with it. Just aim in the sort of head direction, and generally you will one-tap anything with it. But unlike the kickback, it doesn't have more or less unlimited range on it. If you really need to, you can fire down range with it and try and take something out. But it isn't quite as tightly spread like the kickback. Still, very good weapon. I enjoy it. And it does do slightly more damage than the other version. That's the Mark III, and we'll look at the other Mark. It just has a bit more stopping power than the Mark 8. Anyway, that's me rambling about the shotgun. Anyway, the talents. We're going for No Escape. Start off with 10% damage and 10% movement speed on elite or specialist kill. It just gives us a nice bit of charge forward. Target neutralize, replenish 10% toughness instantly and 10% toughness over 4 seconds on elite or specialist kill. We are basically specialist hunting on this character. Close up, replenish 5% toughness on close kill. Force of will, replenish 10% toughness on staggering melee attack, which is basically all of them. walk it off. Spending 1 stamina replenishes 10% toughness over 3 seconds. Into toughness damage reduction, and we're taking remote detonation. It causes an explosion at your Cybermassive's location, staggering and electrocuting enemies. 2 charges, 50-second cooldown. It's very easy to use. Just make sure your dog is actually where you need it to be, because you can accidentally, like that, you can use it, and if your dog's doing that, you've wasted a charge. So just be careful where your Cybermastiff is when you're using it. Also, don't forget to actually tell your Mastiff to do things. Otherwise, you're missing out on a big portion of damage and some utility. As you can see, it's not doing horrific damage to the Crusher, but it is staggering it quite a lot. So make sure you're actually, guiding where your Cybermastiff needs to be. But if you don't want to use remote detonation, you can use any of the others. They're all good in their own way. Arbitrator armor gives you some toughness down into concussive melee weak spot hits, make the enemy counter staggered for 4 seconds. Into suppression protocols, hitting 3 enemies or more with an attack grants you 20% toughness damage reduction for 5 seconds. What's the matter, Otto? What? So there's a kitten just sitting there meowing at me. Suppression 4, staggering enemy makes them deal 20% less damage. Breaking descent, you and your allies' incoherency deal an additional 10% damage versus staggered, which is basically anything you touch or shoot. Plasteel plates for extra toughness. Into unleashed brutality, your Cybermastiff prioritizes elite and special enemies and deals 25% more damage to them. I mean, if you're taking the Cybermastiff, I would always suggest this one. It's just generally better than go get them. Like, elites and specials are always the most dangerous things, so being able to kill them quicker is always better. But Lone Wolf is good as well. Cleave boost, and then we've got Castigator's stance. You enter Castigator's stance for 10 seconds, during which you have 15% movement speed, 80% reduced damage taken, and 100% reduced movement speed penalties from actions, but you cannot sprint. On activation, you replenish all toughness. This thing is basically the I don't want to die button. And generally, if you're wading into quite a dangerous situation, like a Crusher pack or anything like that sort of thing, you want to be pushing this and then just charging in like a maniac. Then you've got Writ of Execution. During Cascade stance, each elite or specialist killed grants 5% damage, lasting 10 seconds. Max stack is 10. So again, this makes you quite damaging. So not only are you incredibly tough now, you are also doing lots and lots of damage. And it does have quite a generous cooldown, especially with some of the talents and also combat ability regen on the trinkets or curos, whatever the hell you want to call them. We'll go over to the right first. We've got Justified Measures, 2% damage on a successful attack, 5 max stacks, lasts 5 seconds. This is just a damage boost for being alive. Hold the line. Staggering an enemy grants 1 stack of +3 damage resistance on the next melee hit taken, stacks 5 times and lasting 8 seconds. Staggering non-human sized enemies grants 5 stacks instead. Down into target the weak. Enemies staggered by your melee attacks take 15% more melee damage for 5 seconds. Emperor's Fist, 15% melee damage and 30% impact on first enemy hit with each attack. This is a very short cooldown, so basically you won't find it getting locked very much. Down into Weight of the Lex, gain 15% damage for 5 seconds after a heavy melee attack. Drive them back, pushing grants 75% cleave, and then we have Strike Down for 15% melee rending on staggered enemies. Now this side of the tree gives you massive amounts of damage for just doing your normal thing. This is a very, very heavy hitting section of the tree. But don't forget to push block to get that cleave, and that will increase the amount of damage you're doing massively. And now we have the Keystone Tree. So, Arbities Revelatum, 15% damage for 5 seconds after a successful dodge. Zealous Dedication, 2% crit strike chance for on kill, 8 stacks, last 10 seconds. This isn't super great. The Arbities doesn't synergize too well with crit. Then down into Execution Order, which is our keystone. Periodically mark enemies, specialists, and bosses for mercy sanction. Killing a marked enemy replenishes 15% toughness. Your Cybermastiff gains 150% Cybermastiff damage for 8 seconds after attacking a marked enemy. You gain 10% and 10% attack speed for 8 seconds after killing a marked enemy. So, marked enemies generally just pop up around you. You don't have to tag them yourself. Okay, I guess it's not going to do it in the Psychonarium. But they'll be marked a kind of purple colour. So, red is things you've marked. Targeted enemies are purple. Though it's decided it doesn't want to show us what it's doing. That's great. Anyway, the tertiary abilities. No lenience. You gain 10% rending for 8 seconds after a marked kill. 50% cooldown regeneration for 8 seconds after a marked kill. And, of course, the last one, Keeping Protocol. Killing a marked enemy grants 1% damage versus monstrosities and 1% damage resistance versus monstrosities, 30 max stacks, and last until the end of the mission. It's just a really nice buff. You just do more damage to monstrosities as you go along. So, you know. But it's a very simple build. You're very, very tough. You generally wade into everything and make sure you keep pushing. If you've played Vermintide 2, it's kind of like the Knight Kruger build, especially if you're using the Mason Sword. Get in there, push things, smack stuff around, stagger everything, and just do lots and lots of damage. It's very easy to get weak spot hits with this weapon because of the overhead strikes, and even on the side swipes, it's quite accurate. And don't forget, Castigator stance makes you an absolute unit. It's not only making you very tough and taking 80% less damage, killing while inside of it also increases your damage massively as well. So there you go, folks. Very easy to use Arbities build. Like I said, if you want to be a little bit safer, you can swap the Arbities Shock Maul over for the Shock Maul and Suppression Shield. Very good way. It's slightly less damage, but a lot more survivability. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed the build. And if you do, please do like and subscribe. Ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So, till then, take it easy. I'll see you later.